want to provide you with insight into something that's been a tremendous crisis of a sort or challenge for me over the last 7 years, and which it's good to understand perhaps sooner in life, anticipate and begin working with it, because it's had a pretty big impact. So first, I'll set the stage with context. When you and I were very young, we dealt with narcissistic rage, hate, physical violence, and trauma. This was so painful, was so lonely, was so overwhelming. And the problem with narcissistic rage is when the child screams or asks for attention or asks for comfort, the child is saying, I matter as well. I'm the little one. I need help from the big one. But to a narcissist, this is horrific, right? I mean, the whole point of hitting the child, the whole point of yelling at the child, the whole point of sending a child to their room is because that's expedient for me. It makes me feel better. And then you crying about it is saying that, no, I matter as well. And this is not real to someone in a narcissistic state, right? And so you can consider the narcissistic abuse of a parent as a whack and a statement that I'm the one that matters. And when a child screams, calls, challenges, begs, asks for attention, the child is saying, I matter too. And that's a challenge to a narcissist. So they hit again. No, you don't matter. I matter. I get to hit you, and then I get to put you away where you're not an inconvenience to me, the only one that matters. Now, happening enough, and you being a sensitive child, the first pain is, of course, horrific, but the second pain is worse. It's a double abandonment. It is a trauma on top of the trauma, and it is identity threatening, right? It's creating worthlessness. It's creating a spiral, a loop. And so a protector part came in that freezes and tries to be as small as possible when you are, as a result of who you are, stimulating a survival fear in someone else and someone in a position of power. So there's a deep wound, there's a deep message and memory in the body that is in trauma, that is in loneliness, that is in shock, that is hit, and that is waiting to be hit. And there is a freezing part that says, don't fight back, don't do anything, and hopefully they won't hit you again. Don't breathe, don't exist, or you may die. So those are two parts. Now, freezing and trying to accommodate and trying to please the abuser and trying not to upset the abuser is such a it's such a wrong relationship with a parent, with an authority figure. It's so cruel. It's so disgusting in a sense, right? That a giant could be such a coward in response to a child. Right? It's disgusting. And so there are 3 parts in this program. Right? We have the child being traumatized and abused in, parental abuse and left alone, right? We give abusive parents in our cult the right to raise their children, no test required, right? No inspection, like let's see how traumatized your child is on a yearly basis, perhaps, right? A yearly check-in. As long as it's behind closed doors and we don't have to deal with it and see it, right? That's great because we don't really know what we're doing as a government around abused children anyway, right? So you're probably better off being abused by your parents than some foster parent. So then we have, of course, the initial extreme reaction in the child, which then leads to the intensification of abuse by a narcissistic, self-centered parent who, of course, knows that it's all about them and, right, how dare the child react to traumatic violence, to a protector coming in and freezing and tightening the muscles in the body so as to stop a further escalation of the cycle, to hold all that terror in, to accommodate the abuser. So at this point, the abuser and the abused child are both wholeheartedly focused on what's good for the abuser, on the narcissist, which is the point, right? The narcissist is saying it's all about me, and the child is finally agreeing, okay, I've got to please you to avoid further abuse. Now, that doesn't get resolved or unpacked. Right? It stays as a deep memory in the body. And this is all called love and time moves on, etc. But this is a very deep memory that has produced chronic fear and anxiety our entire life. Now, out of that chronic fear and anxiety, I'm afraid of being in trouble with the client. What if the client gets mad at me? What if this happens? What if I do that and I'm punished again? Right? So this is a child's memory and a child's physiology, frozen in time. Because when you traumatize something and force the child through narcissism to go on and to placate the abuser, you freeze that part in ice, right? You demand that you move on, but it's not digested, it's partitioned in order to placate the abuser and stop the escalation. So you have ice and ice, right? And what happens when something is frozen is it doesn't change. It doesn't integrate and grow with the rest of the body and the rest of the identity. It's buried and it's frozen in time. Right? And so these are frozen, and there's this constant trying to avoid conflict because I'm afraid of dying. Now, is that rational? I look around, what's the big deal? I'm 6'1", I'm competent, right? Nobody's attacking me, but that's the feeling. Now, because that's the feeling, there are all kinds of situations that heighten and amplify that feeling and say, oh, that's not safe, that's not safe, that's not safe. So I'm more focusing on control. I'm more avoiding conflict here. I'm trying to avoid there, right? I write a contract and I'm trying to figure out everything that could be a conflict and avoid it because I might die, right? That's the feeling. That's the memory in the body. So I've done that my entire life, avoided conflict with authority figures, tried to please, doing more than my fair share just to avoid conflict. Now, out of that pattern of a lifetime comes a backlash to that, because this is saying, is it okay? Is it okay? Will I be punished? Will I be hit? Don't dislike me and hit me because I'm terrified of dying. So that's going on, but that's a paralyzing energy. It's a freezing energy. So to counteract that freezing energy, there's a belligerent, kind of arrogant, fuck that, we're not going to be cowed our entire life energy, right? No, that's not fair. That's not fair. Fuck this. No, right? I'm tired of this. There's the desire to attack something, right? Now, of course, it's trying to attack the original abuse, the original abuser, and protect the child frozen in time at that point, right? But it's more, it plays out in the present by saying, fuck that. I'm tired of being small my entire fucking life. Back off, right? But there's no enemy in the present. And that's frustrating, right? So it doesn't make sense, right? We're a cult, we're a culture of moving on and being positive. So it doesn't quite make sense. And so, this wanting to flail around and find some invisible web that's imprisoning me, but I can't find it, right? But the more I flail around, trying to find that web, the more this part over here says you're going to die. And the more that part over there says you're going to die, you shouldn't question authority, you shouldn't do this, the more this part flails around and says, where is it? Where is this fucking prison that has kept me in fear my entire life? Where the fuck is it, right? Where, right? Of course, you want to smash something or whatever, but it's not there, right? You can take a baseball bat and smash your computer, right? But you've just got a broken computer and the web is still there. So this is enraging. It's maddening. It's frustrating. So the more there's that thing, then the more there's, oh, that's inappropriate, that's aggressive, that's this, don't move, somebody isn't going to like you and you're going to die. Right? And I'm tired of that. Somebody isn't going to like that either and you're going to die, right? So it's this back and forth. Now, I do not know how to resolve this matrix of frozen trauma. It's overwhelming. It is terrifying. It's tremendously lonely and frustrating to go into and feel like what it's like to be a 2-year-old in the presence of narcissistic rage. It's incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly painful. It's devastatingly overwhelming. I don't want to feel that way again, right? And yet that little one is stuck in there feeling that way. I don't want to live my whole life in fear of getting in trouble for speaking out and asserting myself, right? But I have and do feel that way my entire life. I don't want to be imprisoned in that. nor do I want to be throwing tantrums of rage to try to get out of that. But I do, right? And so this is the prison, this is the matrix, and this last loop, right? Flailing around to try and find something. Oh my gosh, you're going to die. No, I'm not going to die. You know, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to die. Back off. Oh, you're going to die. You're going to die. See, you're getting angry. You're challenging the authority. No, fuck this, right? So this is the loop, right? And then when that gets a bit crazy, right? Then we just go back to, you know, living in this little box of fear and trying to be small enough that the internalized abuser will not get upset, right? Because there's an internalized abuser. Used to be mom and dad. Now it's an internalized abuser. You to try and scare the little one into not being free, right? Into not speaking up, into not existing. So it's heartbreaking, it's mind-numbing, it's painful, it's lonely, right? And it doesn't resolve, right? This doesn't resolve it. Right? The limitations of talk therapy, it does not resolve it. And the inner child work that you did in meditation, etc., obviously has also not resolved it. So for our entire life, calf muscles have been really tight, thigh muscles have been really tight, sphincter muscle very tight. There's an urge to be in this kind of a I'm going to do one little thing, and I hope no one's mad at me and kills me. One little thing out. Is that too much? Right? Is that too much? That's the feeling. That's the physiology. And to live in that terror for an entire lifetime is enraging. It is maddening. It is crippling. Right? Take an arm, take a leg any day, right? You can get a prosthetic for that. But how do you enjoy life when every moment of expression is, that could kill me, right? And yes, the rage and the anger allows me to cut through that and do things, but not to enjoy it, right? That's an impatient reaction to the fear. Tired of that fear. I'm going to do this. Fuck that. Okay, so I'm not enjoying it. Fuck that. I'm tired of this. I'm exhausted by that. I hate this, right? That's not enjoyment. That's reaction. And then it adds to again. So that's the seesaw. And my best guess is that IFS, internal family system therapy, as well as TM, transcendental meditation, have some chance with that. I know yoga helped a little bit, right? But more recently, it's felt like it's too uncomfortable to be in yoga, to enter more of that terror. But that is the pattern as I understand it. And I couldn't have said that a year ago, meaning I didn't understand this pattern a year ago. So now is the time I understand it more than I ever have in 47 or 48 years. So you might be able to get a jump on it sooner and find something that, that works, because one of the areas that's actually in play is therapists become that authority figure, and there have been so many crappy therapists wasting so much time and bringing up that same dynamic. It's like, this is a waste of time. Fuck, that's a waste of time. I don't want to get killed by the therapist by telling them that that's not working, right? Right. And now trying another therapist, actually, I have an allergic reaction to that, right? It's like, it's just one more thing of getting into that anxious state where now, the therapist has the ability to trigger all that fear and I'm now in the captive state of being terrified of that. And we're wasting time again, right? And it's an incompetent therapist. Fuck that. I just want to get out of there. So that's kind of the dynamic after lots of incompetent therapy. But a good IFS, therapist, perhaps earlier on, and maybe I'll get up the tolerance to try another one. But I'd say that captures about 30% of my life force and energy to date from age 1 or 2, probably starting at age 2 to the present. So 30% of my energy is in that frozen, arrested pattern. It's, of course, exhausting, right? So that has precipitated more chronic fatigue and more of the suicidal tendency than probably anything else. And I feel it in my body as I go to sleep. It's right now, like as I go into the room and it's late to try and sleep, that energy in my body, stops me from calming down, and it's harder to get to sleep.